mic. People online are not going to hear your question. Ian's not going to hear your question, and nobody's going to know what you're talking about, okay? And same for the board up here. Anytime we're talking, if we can funnel it through the mic, because that new audio works awesome online, but we have to make certain that we just continue to use the mic, okay? Thank you. Is he? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm still here.
There we go.
Good afternoon, Paul.
Hey, Larry.
Where'd everybody go? Paul's awful quiet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, it is 6 o'clock. Paul, you want to kick us off?
Sure will. April 25th, 2025, 6 o'clock. On behalf of board members, not only present, but my fellow Zoomies and the administration present, we'd like to welcome you to our first in-season board meeting of 2025. We'll start things off with invocation. I see Jeff's name on the list, if you would be so kind, Jeff.
Absolutely. If we can bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for new beginnings. We thank you for this amazing spring day, which you've graciously turned into a fall day, and the start of another Sandy Pines season. You continue to bless us with this wonderful park, staff, board of directors, and members. We're excited to start memories this season filled with laughter, golf cart rides, swimming, and campfires. We ask that you touch those who may be struggling with health or other issues with your healing hand. Take their burdens away. We ask you to open our hearts and minds to fill us with strength, wisdom, and knowledge as we work through issues together to make decisions on behalf of our park, to make it a better place, to pass on to our loved ones. I personally thank you for answering my prayers for returning our lake level back to full strength. The calls and emails have definitely slowed down on that topic. All of this is done through you and your precious name. Amen.
Thank you. This time, if we could all rise and face the flag and Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty for all. Kimberly, if you'd be so kind to do a roll call for us, please.
Yes. Alan Carpenter. Rick Day. Here. Bob Deckinga. Here. Pat Dosema. Here. Jenny Hager. Here. Larry Munger.
Here.
Paul Peppel.
Here.
Craig Van Beek. And Scott Wyman.
Here.
8 present.
Okay, as Jeff pointed out in the little bit of preamble there, we are moving in a new direction as far as allowing member comment prior to any agenda items being read. This gives the voice back to the members, gives them an opportunity to be heard before we would have any votable type items, or if you just want to speak about any type of agenda item. And I stress it would be a comment that you can make on an agenda item only. This will be you speaking, and it will not be conversational. We still will have a Q&A conversational afterward, and that will be open topics. You can ask Jeff anything that you'd like about the park or any other board members or myself that are still present. Again, we stress that you make sure and use a microphone. Try to speak into the microphone so everyone can hear, and name and site number, please. And I'll have to get some assistance from my fellow board members since I cannot see the audience, so I don't know exactly who's up and when there aren't anymore. So if anyone wants to take the reins.
On there?
Okay, well, let's. We do have members. We'll send it out to you that way.
Okay,
There we go. No member comment.
no member comment. Very good. Jeff, need a rundown?
I would like to ask something. I want to know why the proposal that I brought to the board, and it says by the laws of the state of Michigan, I can propose it at the meeting, why I'm not allowed to propose it at this meeting.
It's not an agenda item.
And so why wasn't it put on the agenda?
So, Larry, this was discussed at the work session. The board had pros and cons from your proposal that they asked to review. They are going to review that proposal, and it will be reviewed at May's work session as we discussed. It did not meet the agenda item. That's our process.
I don't understand why you're afraid of that proposal.
Not a time for this discussion.
It's about transparency.
This is not a time for this discussion, Larry.
Yeah, well, continue.
This is not
then.
discussion. Jeff, would you give us a rundown of the new park members that were, looks like January through March of this season? See how much activities we had going through the sales office.
Absolutely, would love to. So new member approvals, January 2025 through March 2025, we had 20 new sales. We had 5 in January, 5 in February, and 10 in March. Breakdown was 9 through our sales department through Kent and team. Janelle handled 9 through the for sale by owner process, and then we had 2 transfers of memberships. A total of 28 new park members came into our park. Demographic breakdown is 5 members in their 30s, 10 members in their 40s, 3 members in their 50s, 7 members in their 60s, and 3 members in their 70s. And that concludes the new member breakdown for the park.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion to approve the new members for January through March of 2025. I apologize. Did we have both?
Yeah,
I could
hold
not
on.
hear.
So
Thank you.
Dave makes the motion to approve the new members.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the new park members, speak by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that passes. By now, you've had a chance to look at the minutes from the January 2025. I should say the board members have had the opportunity to look at the minutes and corrected minutes for January 2025. Were there any questions from the board about that? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from January 2025.
So moved.
All right. All those in favor of approving the January 2025 minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that passes as well. Kim, I'd like you to give us a breakdown first of the financials for the second quarter of our season, the first quarter of 2025. We'll start off with the Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails financial statements.
Sure. For Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails, I did send out the financial statements for January 2025, February, and March 2025. So the summary I'm providing is a year-to-date, conclusive of actually October through March 2025. We're already 6 months into the season, which is hard to believe. But as of March 2025, financials do reflect a steady year-to-date performance. A lot of key updates driven by off-season activity related to capital projects, operational restructuring, and some revenue adjustments. Highlights that were included are the finalizations of costs and reimbursements for the Lake Monterey Dam project, increased income across various member amenities, and elevated utility and fuel expenses due to inflationary markers. There were some strategic staffing changes in response to the new Department of Labor regulations, which is affecting many organizations in the nation, along with organizational restructuring, has resulted in a reduction in overall salary expenses. Despite some timing variances and seasonal fluctuations, our budgeting forecasting still remains on track. Operations cash overall is down about 14% or $710,000 compared to March of last year. Of this amount, $150,000 is due to the drain maintenance that was completed and successful, as well as a payment of the Lake Monterey Dam project, which temporarily is processed through our operations cash. About $476,000 will be reimbursed from the capital funds as supported by the dam repair assessment. I do want to note that the asset replacement cash that you see does include $649,000 from the $300 member assessment for the Lake Monterey Dam. An additional $172,000 from this assessment will be held in the capital funds for future lake development. One note I want to make about that was the project was to date under the budget markers for that project, but there is some, you'll still see some activity going on there. The project still has some things that they had to wait until the spring weather to complete. Our Charles Schwab investment account is up approximately $100,000 over the prior year. And then I did want to make some notes on the acquisitions grant fund. When you look at the balance sheet, the grant fund does reflect funding for both the upcoming CC1 FEMA storm shelter as well as the Lake Monterey Dam project. I do want to highlight one thing with CC1. We have expended about $88,554 in the planning and engineering costs to date. We are on hold due to the FEMA regulations across the board that has been done at the national level, and we're waiting for state directive before we move any further, just to protect our funding and see where we can go from this point. So we will keep you up to date on that. And then the Lake Monterey Dam project, as mentioned before, it was quoted at $1,378,965, with the actual costs so far totaling $1,200,000. But as I stated, there are some residual work that's being done. Eagle has already reimbursed Sandy Pines the $723,600, and then the remaining $476 is being held in the acquisition grant fund, which you'll see in that total amount. And then new member capital contributions, when you look at the equity side of the balance sheet, you will see that has increased a little bit, and part of that is the total capital that comes in at the beginning of the year, but we've also added an additional $8,000 year to date in response to the message from the membership to include an additional equity account for new memberships coming into the park. So this would be any new member buying a membership into the park. And then on the income side, total net income is about $5,000 below the previous year. And so we're pretty close in comparison. Some of the items that we're really working on is to manage the income across the board for different areas in response to the inflationary measures that everybody is seeing across the board. I do want to make note, inspection income is up about $60,000 compared to last year. A lot of this is attributed to cleanup of records, process improvements, so we're going to continue to keep an eye on that. You'll notice that newsletter ag income is up about $22,000, and our marketing has done a great job in offsetting some of the increased publishing costs, but also bringing revenue in by pulling advertisements in. Salary expense, as I mentioned with the Department of Labor regulations, you are going to notice that some of those are down over the off-season, and that was really in relation to the department restructuring because of those changes. When you look at tree removal expense, you will see that that's about $23,000 year to date compared to last year, which didn't have much activity. Our focus going forward is going to be to prioritize that removal in the off-season, just for the protection and safety of our members and minimal park disruption during the season. Maintenance was pretty consistent to last year. You will notice holding tank income has increased about 16%, but you're also going to see the offset of the increase in auto and equipment fuel. But I do want to note that when comparing March this year to last year, at this time, the gas pump was not open for the use of the maintenance department. So they were purchasing the fuel across the street, and it took time to get those invoices over. So part of that is a timing item that I just want to mention when you look at the financial statements. And then in security, gas pass income is up about 27%. Prox card income is down about 3.6%, but has reached 72% of the budget. Under resort services, you will notice that capital Wi-Fi income is up about 5%, but our expense is up 6.5%, which is consistent with our contract expectations. Late maintenance expense includes a $150,000 charge for that drain maintenance, as we mentioned. So you will see that on the operations side of the financial statement. Then utility expense, I do want to note this is where a lot of people are seeing increases as well, inflationary. We're up about 26% to prior year and have reached 30% of the budget. But the other offset of that is even though the lake is high, we had to run the pumps through the off season, so to get that water up, which incurred a lot more electricity. And then last, professional services expense is slightly below last year, but it has reached about 72% of the budget. We are looking at additional software development for our point of sale system. We do see that Dynamics has been pretty established, but we are looking at a new point of sale system to handle some of the discrepancies that we're seeing so far. There isn't much activity in paddles, pedals, and carts, but we are up compared to last year, and the retail gas center, but we'll see a lot of that coming as the season continues to open. So I will conclude my review of Sandy Pines there, and I will also have my notes posted in my most recent footprints.
Thank you, Kim. Are there any questions or comments from the board for Kim? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the January through March 2025 Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails financial statements.
I'll make a motion we approve that.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that passes. Kim, stay with the microphone. Talk to us during that same about the golf course financial situation there.
All right. Even though the Lake Monterey Golf Course has seemed pretty quiet over the off season, there is still activity that goes on there. So their financial position continues to show overall strength. There is a notable increase in the operation cash and stable debt reduction, which is good to see. Net income is slightly lower than the prior year. expenses do remain aligned with budget expectations and with the necessary course improvements, which have contributed to the planned increases in maintenance cost. You'll notice that operation cash has increased about 27% compared to last year. This is largely due to higher sales compared to last year, and we continue to keep the payoff of outstanding member account receivable balances to Sandy Pines updated. Current note payable to Sandy Pines stands at $280,000, and that's reflective of the $100,000 payment that was made at the end of last fiscal year. Net income year to date as of March 2025 is about 30% or $25,000 lower than prior year. Salary expenses were up about 13% or roughly $8,000 compared to last year. The increase is consistent with the budget and does not cause concern, but the Department of Labor regulations that we talked about did affect there in different ways than it did Sandy Pines. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that, but there's no cause for concern there. And then last, repairs and maintenance to the golf course is up about $12,000 this year compared to last, and that does reflect necessary improvements and upkeep to maintain the course quality. We've really been hit with a lot of storms in this off season, and they've done a really good job just trying to keep up with each one as they continue to come through. So that concludes my review for Lake Monterey as of March 2025 year to date.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the January through March 2025 Lake Monterey Golf Course statements.
Motion to approve as presented.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And that passed. For those of you that are present tonight, welcome back. For those of us that are Zooming, we will soon be joining you. And it looks like it's going to be a fantastic year. I'm sure there'll be a lot of things to discuss. And as more and more members come into the park and we become more active in the season, there seems to be quite an upswing in social media, people talking about things like questions and comments. And occasionally that can turn rather ugly. And so I'd like you to all think about using the acronym THINK before you post, before you speak, before you tweet. You know, is it true? Is this a true statement you're making? H, is it a help that you're making? I, is this inspirational? Will it inspire you to do better? Is it needed? Is it kind? I think that just taking just a second to think before you speak, tweet, or post, regardless of whether it's in a face-to-face situation, a board situation, a social media situation, I think that will help us all get through 2025 and help make this a much less tumultuous season. That's all I have. Jeff, do you have any comments that you'd like to add tonight?
Yes, thank you, Paul. So again, welcome everybody to our first in-season board meeting. We got another start to another amazing Sandy Pines season. We hope everybody had a blessed off season and everybody's made it here back safe and sound and good standing, healthy. The staff has worked really hard this off season. We've had a lot of projects throughout this off season. So we'll go over some of those in the old and new business updates. So if you get a chance, you see, public safety, Ben, his team, just, tell them thank you. This place looks amazing, and it's all the behind the scenes stuff that the members don't see. We're blessed with a good board supporting the staff and supporting the members who voted for them. And, at times we do have some challenging things that this team here has to go through. And, Paul's comments when you get out to social media or even talk one-on-one personally is spot on. We're trying to make this place better than what we found it. So that's kind of our mantra every year. But we're excited for this year, and we're excited to have everybody back. So welcome back.
Thank you, Jeff. Moving on to old business, the board in the fall passed the dam assessment, and there was a minor language, a minor typo, I guess we'll call it. So I'm going to need to read just a portion of the resolution where it was incorrect, and then I will reread the corrected version. Again, we will not be voting on this. That's already been passed and approved. This is strictly a language cleanup, so apologize. I have to get a phone out here and look at this. All right. So, whereas the Board of Directors of Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails Incorporated was notified by the Allegan County Drain Commissioner, the ACDC, in writing on July 8, 2024, that the Lake Mountain Dam, the dam, has been downgraded from satisfactory to poor condition due to leaking and/or piping. As these conditions endanger the public health, safety, welfare, and property around Monterey Lake, as well as landowners upstream and downstream from the dam, Sandy Pines must repair per the requirements of the ACDC as soon as is feasible, as the repairs may lead to failure of the dam. We can assume that last sentence was not correct. Well, this will be the amended version. Again, there will be no voting on this because the resolution itself was already passed in the fall. Whereas the Board of Directors of Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails, Inc. was notified by the Allegan County Drain Commissioner, ACDC, in writing on July 8, 2024, that the Lake Monterey Dam, the dam, has been downgraded from satisfactory to poor condition due to leaking and/or piping. As these conditions endanger the public health, safety, welfare, and property around Monterey Lake, as well as landowners upstream and downstream from the dam, Sandy Pines must repair per the requirements of the ACDC as soon as is feasible, as the conditions may lead to failure of the dam. So I appreciate your patience while we did that little bit of house cleaning. A lot of activity has been going on in the off season. There's been a lot of, we left last season with a lot of question marks about trailer modifications and alterations. Jeff and staff and the administrative team they worked countless hours to try and resolve this once and for all, and get the governing bodies, of which there are several, to also agree to what our plan is. So Jeff, I'd like to, if you have a moment, just give us an update as to where we are to date.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. And again, just for the record, the resolution number on that was corrected is 092724A. That was the dam assessment. So, yes, we've worked tirelessly to try and figure out the direction and get all of the, I guess, herding of the different entities that oversee our park aligned, or at least documented and communicated what are the rules and what are the expectations. We've taken, over the course of last year, this has been a 12-month process. We've taken in member feedback, we've taken in contractor feedback, we've taken in legal feedback. I mean, we've had so much feedback and scenarios and examples and options on this. We've pretty much have exhausted everything, and here's where we're at. So, we've met with our township. I'll take a step back. During these meetings, the expectation of the governing entities that oversee us, the expectations are, one, you're responsible internally to make certain that you're meeting all the rules, regulations, and requirements and laws that pertain to this community. And I guess a good analogy or scenario is we can build a building somewhere and it can meet the structural and the mechanical, but if we put a if we put a daycare in there, it has to be licensed by another governing body to make certain that you are running the daycare appropriately. Then you also have to have mechanical inspections and things of that nature. So running a community such as ours is pretty complicated. We do have some final direction. We've met with the township PCI, professional code inspectors. They are step number 2. Our park inspector, Sandy Pines, rules, those are number 1. Number 2 is the township PCI. We've met with them, vetted all of the examples, feedback that we've gotten from everybody. We've got a direction from them. We met with Allegan County Health Department, same thing. And we've met with Eagle, all of these entities multiple times during the off season. The answer is not really anything different than what we thought and what we communicated about a year ago in the member letter that was sent out May. No trailer modifications can be allowed. It's state law. We've gone through the resolution that was drafted in June to better communicate and identify, well, what are modifications and alterations? What do you mean? That got tabled by the board as we gathered more information. Every single one of these entities that oversee our park have been very clear with us. You cannot alter the identity of your trailer, period. You cannot remove doors, windows, sliders. It has to be, if you have porches attached to it, each area has to have their own thermal envelope conditioned space. So your porch has to be completely separate from your trailer and your porch on the other side. So one of the most common things that came up for Jim and myself was, well, hey, wait a minute, back in the day, we could order these from the manufacturers this way. We took that directly to the manufacturers. We've also took that to all of the entities, and RVIA is the one that's responsible for the specifications, ANSI 1192, 1195. Point blank, the manufacturers have told us, yeah, they've been ordered that way, but when I ship them from my facility, it's either got waterproof board over it with waterproof tape, or it's got siding, and it is fully enclosed, its own single thermal envelope, waterproof, that can travel down the road. Once it hits your park, I don't know what you guys are doing with it. So that's a little bit of a loophole that we felt was not real. That's putting our park and our members in jeopardy of non-compliance. So when we've had the discussions with the entities, obviously, as you would think, the state is the most stringent on following these rules. You'll see in some of the communications that we do have posted out online, I'll show you that in a second, the state has said, well, once you've altered that park model, it's no longer a park model, and park models, per the law, are the only ones that can be on a licensed campsite, your campsite. So you have to remove them for the park. And we're like, what? We have to remove these from the park now is the direction? So we went back and forth really from September through, we finally wrapped up these discussions in February and March. There is a corrective action in place that the state has agreed to, the county and the township. Through ANSI 1192, 1195, a manufacturer can ship those openings that way, but there is a corrective action, repair, replace, or install. State was taking a hard line saying you voided that specification, the RVI stamp that's out there. They originally said if you have somebody recertify that, and then we'll allow that back in your park. There's nobody in the industry that will recertify this. Once these things have been touched, they don't know what else has been touched. So we have worked with the state on a corrective action plan. We have actually been doing this all last year. We will correct any noncompliance through the sale, transfer, or a major permitting item that impacts your porch or your park model. So what does that mean? I have a 30-year-old porch that's falling apart. You have to file a permit with Sandy Pines. You have to file a permit with PCI. During that permit process, one or both of us have to go out and inspect the porch and the work. If we notice that there's doors, windows, sliders missing, they have to be installed and put back. Our start out position is you have to have that done in 30 days. We know there's parts and contractors that have schedules. So if it's 8 weeks, longer than 30 days, as long as we get an agreement, we will have it documented, and then we will actually log that. Eagle has stated when and if they come here, they will ask and they will want to see our log. So from the time we had last year this communication to where we're at today, we've had 41 members that are non-compliant. We have rectified 50% of those already. The other 50% have plans in place because they're waiting on porches and contractors. This isn't what we wanted to hear. It's kind of what we thought when we talk about, hey, this wasn't enforced by the DNR, this wasn't enforced by the county or the township, or maybe even past Sandy Pines inspectors. I'm just being very transparent. The state, that's not their problem. They don't care. Their response is, this has been law since the 70s and 80s. Technically, the park model trailers, once you've modified them, fall into a resort cabin. And this document is out there. If you read the resort cabins are not allowed on campsites. Therefore, they have to be removed. Their original response, after we continued to share some of this information, was, you got to pull them out. And we said, absolutely not. The other thing that they said was, how many do we have? Don't know. Well, why aren't you going out and identifying all of them? We're not going to knock on our members' doors. Just not going to do it. So with that, again, we came up with a plan. Bear with me, because if you go out to the website and you scroll down to the park inspector section, we communicated all of this to our contractors in March. We're also going to have a follow-up contractor meeting at the end of the season. They are another layer. Not saying anybody in this room has done anything wrong, but we know when a contractor's out there, hey, I got this porch out here, can you remove a door for me because I like this? Or hey, my deck is permitted for 200 square, can you make it 600? I really got this. Contractors are another level of, they have to make certain that they're following the rules. We have removed 3 contractors from last year that would not comply with these rules. They're not here any longer. They're not going to work in our park. If you scroll down to, you're more than welcome to watch this. And then if you scroll down to, look at me, that's why I'm inside here. There we go. Trailer modification. All these buttons. Here's all the information. You have what we have. There's an April letter that I've drafted updating the membership of what we did, what the findings that we have, the direction, the corrective action plan, the May 24 letter that was sent last year. You click on PCI as the township letter will highlight, you can't do this, it's 400 square feet or less. conditioned space, and if you do it, they have to communicate to the state that this is now a mobile home park and taxes go up. It's in the letter. Allegan County Health Department, similar response without have to report it to the tax assessor. Tax assessor is the township responsibility. One thing that I encourage members to look at, I encourage you to look at all this, but we have put an enforcement responsibility chart together on this. If you click on this, this is the decision process of what we go through. The park inspector is responsible for enforcing state law, Eagle, county requirements. Then you go to township, then you go to the county, and then the state. This is the pyramid. This corrective action plan through attrition, as it goes through the sales process or major permitting, we will have to make those compliant. Hey, if you don't sell for 20 years and you've got a nice open concept, we're not going to knock on your door, but understand Eagle will be coming in, and they may or may not want to take a look at sites, and they definitely are going to take a look at our log. If we are not closing these, their version of attrition was, we're giving you we're giving you your license this year. What are you doing next year to close everything so you get your license back? And that's why we said, hold on, wait a minute. Even if we say it's 50%, 30%, whatever that number is, you got to understand there's 2,163 people or sites here. We can't close all of these in 6 months, 12 months. So they have agreed to this plan. This is the best case scenario that we could get out of this discussion. The next thing, we've talked about is we have lined up the responsibilities of each of those areas in the pyramid. So here's the rule, here's the responsibility, and then this is the entity that's responsible for enforcing it. And we've also married up the state law, the state communication, Sandy Pines rules. We've tried to make it as easy to try and understand that. But we have talked ad nauseum to everybody. We've brought up, well, hey, grandfather us in, because, again, right, wrong, or indifferent, manufacturers have brought them here. It hasn't been enforced. They want no part of a grandfathering conversation. It's been law. Whether we haven't not enforced it or the DNR, whoever, they're being gracious with us right now. So that's kind of our update. We have policies in place. We have procedures to log, document, so we can show Eagle when they come in and when they ask for it. Item C, off-season project recap. So we've already talked about FEMA CC1. Again, Kimberly has done a phenomenal job. There were some talks out there, well, the wording's kind of vague, so why don't you guys go ahead and just spend $2 million on this? We think it's going to get reimbursed. Nope. Not going to do it. Funds aren't there. We're not going to do it. Sorry. So Kimberly's done a good job on that. Phase 3. So we talked briefly about drain maintenance. Again, that was done at the end of the year. We were blessed to have a good relationship with the county. They worked. The drain commissioner worked with us. I encourage you to go take a look at Phase 3 by where Pigeon Creek is, without walking through other members' sites. But you can walk through the green space. But the lake back there has been really taken care of. That has been sediment buildup for probably 10, 15 years. And we were blessed to have the parameters of, as long as we remove that sediment, we don't dig deeper, we don't dig wider. It's a maintenance project, and the county walked us through that And it looks beautiful. It looks amazing back there. Dump station and drain field, and Phase 3's had a lot going on this off-season. So dump station and drain field. Again, dump station has been it was a recommendation from our long-term planning committee. We need another dump station. All of our pump outs go to the one dump station over by the softball field, and that field is getting to the point where, hey, we may have some concerns with that. Phase 3, we put in a new drain field. Half of the pump outs will go there. The other half will stay here at the regular or the original pump out. That way, that gives us a little bit of a balancing act. It's going to save that drain field there. And we've also added the camping dump station, because campers and our members, if they camp over in Phase 3, which the majority of our sites are at for camping, they have to come into the park, go over by the softball field, and try and dump there. And it's just, it's been a fiasco at times. So this was a great recommendation from the Long Range Planning Committee. We were able to execute that. Kimberly talked about tree clearing, got a lot of calls, hey, what happened to our trees, you know, the sound and noise buffer, things of that nature. You know, we did take a look at, you know, great, again, recommendations from staff and members. Why do we do one-off tree removals during the season? It's a safety issue. You got cranes coming around, you got people cutting trees down, you got little kids running through the park. So we did contract a couple of arborists to go take a look at our trees, mainly in Phase 2 and 3. That's where most of the trees are. And along 26th Avenue and 136, the dirt road there, they identified a lot of dead trees, a lot of trees that were getting choked off that will eventually be dead. And so we cleared all of those out. We didn't take any that were deemed good, healthy trees. They were all problems. There were some emails about, hey, why aren't you replacing these trees? And that email came probably a week or two prior to maintenance went there, and they've actually planted trees, and they've planted them in a way where as they grow, they're not going to cut off and choke off the other trees. So as we take them out, we are trying to replace them. We're working with members on their sites or in the green space. Hey, I need this tree removed. It's a hazardous issue. We're going to remove them, but then where it makes sense, we're going to plant new ones. We're not just going to whack trees. We need to be sandy pines, not just sandy, right? So we want trees around. We contracted with a company called Whiteman, who actually worked with our FEMA project. They were the selected engineer. They are working on our capital investment project. What is that? Well, we have a reserve, and that reserve is going to end here in 2027. So we've kicked off a capital investment project. They're evaluating all of our structures. They were here opening week. They had a team of about 5 or 6. They're coming back mid-May. They're looking at all of our structures. We internally are looking at a schedule for pumper trucks need to be replaced, and public safety cars need to be replaced, and tractors need to replace, computers, things of this nature. So the plan is we're going to gather all of this information. We're going to have a town hall this summer. We're going to gather input from members as well. This is our park. We invest in this park. We got to look at it as an investment. I've heard so many people who've bought in here and they've paid $50,000 for their site, and they're selling them for much more than that, because everybody has invested in this park. That added stream of investment will end in 2027. We need to come up with a new plan to keep that investment going. Lake Monterey Dam, we already talked about. Ben and team have done an excellent job they just put that fence in over by where the shrubs were. And we have new rental golf carts. They're beautiful. We drew a hard negotiation with this supplier. We're not taking as much of an increase as what they originally looked at. The reason why I bring this up is they're all gas. And the reason why I bring that up is the four-seaters were EV, they were battery. Feedback from our staff was the batteries died, campers wouldn't plug them in, associates who were renting them weren't plugging them in, and hauling those things and the maintenance of a battery golf cart basically doubled the cost. So we do have all brand new, a whole new fleet out there. They are gas, and we have a new gas pump out there too, so that'll help out. So I know I went a little bit long, but I encourage you to go out to that park inspector, read all of that information. We're gonna have a site development like town hall like we did last year to go do a deeper dive into this, so. That's all I have for old business.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yeah.
I know that you have been very much involved with Marvac and Eagle and so on, but as there are some homes in here that might be 25 years old, park models, and I'm just thinking, what do you do, or what do we do as a park? What do we expect, I guess? 25 years ago, were there smoke detectors in some of these units? And I know all the new ones have them. The new ones even have CO2 alarms in them. If someone has a 25 or 30-year-old unit and they sell it and it meets all the other requirements, is that an upgrade we would require? That just,
Right.
I never thought of it until you went through some of this just now.
Right.
So, like a ground fault plug is usually standard in everybody's bathroom for when there's liquids close by. And I'm thinking, I'm sure if you go back a long, I mean, the first house I built didn't have smoke detectors.
Right.
And I don't think houses nowadays, even a residential house would probably have a CO2.
Right.
So what do we do on something like that? I'm just
So
throwing it out.
that's a great question, and that has come up in some of our discussions with Marvac and other campgrounds.
Yeah.
Their response to us was, why do you have 25 and 30-year-old park model trailers and campers in there?
Well, why do we
Because-
have 70 and 80-year-old
Yeah,
people here?
yeah. Well, some of the right.
That's a
Some
good question.
they haven't right. They haven't gotten there yet to make it a mandate. I don't know if they ever will, but they highly encourage. You know, there are some campgrounds that say, if your park model is 20 years or older, it has to be removed, and you have to get an updated one with all of those things. We're not there yet. We would push back. Now again, what Bob's referring to is Marvac, the Michigan RV and Camping, I guess, association. That's the word I'm looking for. So they have been great for us because I won't share any of the details because Marvac's still working on stuff, but they read legislation on campgrounds that the state tries to pass or does pass, and they are the voice for our campground, other campgrounds throughout here, and they have said, you know, there are some legislation individuals, representatives that state, hey, if it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years or older, you got to get out of there. And they're like, well, hold on, wait a minute. We're not going to be overreaching on some of this stuff. I had a 66 Mustang, and it was perfectly fine, and, you know, it drove great. You're telling me I have to sell it and I have to get a new one? No, that doesn't make sense. So as long as it's meeting the requirements at that time, it's still allowed.
Okay, then the other thing I'd like to have you just elaborate, because it was really positive news at our work session on Monday. What's the average size of a campsite, and what's the average size of a campsite here at Sandy
Right.
Pines?
So good question. You want me to elaborate into what we actually
Just-
talked about?
No, you got,
Okay. Okay.
90 seconds.
Okay. 90 seconds. All right. So what Bob's referring to is the average campground in the state of Michigan, hypothetically, when they developed all these rules, is 1,200 square feet. Our average campsite is 3,200 square feet. So we're trying to work with Marvac and push some of these things with, hey, maybe some of the rules back in 2010 and before then were based on a 1,200 square foot campground site. Ours is significantly larger. Can we open up some of these rules? Those are some of the conversations that Jim and I are trying to have, and we do have a couple of meetings set up with Eagle in June to try and broach some of these topics. So
Yeah, I just wanted to, that out there that we have a lot of value for a 3,200 square foot place, other than you gotta mow the lawn if you got a lot of grass versus sand and weeds around it. But thanks for bringing that up. I think it was a positive thing to hear the size of our campsites.
I'd
in
like
most
to make
cases.
a comment, Jeff. To Bob's question, the good State Department, the State Fire Marshal's Office, I can't speak to the ground fault, but the state of Michigan provides free 10-year lithium-ion battery smoke alarms for everybody's residential home in the state of Michigan, as well as combination smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. All you gotta do is reach out. They buy $1 million every year worth of them, and they're free to everybody in the state of Michigan. So if your home's here and you need a smoke alarm, look me up. We'll get you hooked up. I don't care how old your unit is. Same with a carbon monoxide alarm. They're free. The state provides them.
How many do you have in your trunk right now?
Well, I'm serious. We buy $1 million. There's a budget line for $1 million every year. There's no excuse you don't have a working smoke alarm in your house.
Yeah, no doubt.
amen.
Jeff,
Yes.
who makes the repairs to the trailer, the buyer or the seller?
So that depends. The process has been, once it's identified, it becomes down into a negotiation between the buyer and the seller. As long as Sandy Pines has it documented on who's making said change to get it back into compliance, and then that is actually done and signed off and photos are snapped, it's really becomes a negotiation.
Because if I was a buyer, I would want to make sure I had the quality and style of window, door, or whatever they had to replace, put in, rather than someone put something cheap just to cover up a hole.
Completely agree. We use the example with one buyer-seller discussion with, we could have the seller do it. He may or may not go to the dump and find an old slider and dump it in there and not be completely what you want, but, you may want to think about that. So typically what's been happening is the sales price has been adjusted, and I believe the majority of the buyers, right, Jim? The majority of the buyers are taking on that responsibility because they may be completely redoing the inside, they may be laying down flooring, whatever. So it's going to be theirs for a long period of time, so they want to take ownership of the correction.
Plus, it does not slow down the sale, which is what the seller is after. We've worked with the buyer on top of that so that sale can go very quickly too.
Yep. And that, as Jim stated, that helps the sale continue to proceed. Okay. Moving on to new business. Committees. Paul and I were talking, and being remote, typically he would take on the committees because the committees serve the board, but I will communicate the liaisons for 2025. So finance is going to be Ginny Hager. Golf course is going to be Craig Van Beek. Lake study is going to be Paul Peppel. Library is going to be Pat Duzma. Long range planning committee will be Scott Wyman. Rules will be Rick Day. Safety and security, Larry Munger and Bob Deckinga. And we've tried to kick this one off last year, stumbled a little bit. We're going to try it again, but it's welcoming committee, outreach committee. Ellen Carpenter will be the board liaison on that. So why do we have 2-on-1? Great question, and I'm glad somebody asked it. So we used to have a pool committee. Pools are done, so that committee has been defunct. The technology committee has gone away. Grounds and maintenance. We have more board members than we do committees right now. So some of those committees could be dusted off if you're interested in joining any of these committees, or revitalizing some of the ones that we used to have in the past, come see me, come see Janelle in Sales camping area, and would love to have a conversation. No questions.
And Rules Committee, looks like the Rules Committee, Jeff, we have
Yep,
at least vote on a new member.
correct.
Yeah, and anytime that a member chooses to be on a committee, they would typically go on, perhaps sit in on a committee meeting and get to know the other members. And then the vetting process goes through. And once that all passes, then that individual then is brought to the board, as we have tonight, and then the board will formally approve, pending the vote, formally will approve Kelly Johnson as a new member of the Rules Committee. I will entertain a motion to approve Kelly as a new member of the Rules Committee.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right. Kelly Johnson, new member of the Rules Committee, formally anyway. And with that, we meet it in 1 minute under 1 hour. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of April 25th, 2025.
Somebody has a question out there?
Q&A is
We'll have Q&A. And then, yes, we will.
Well, no, because there should be a liaison for the condo association. You haven't got anybody to sign. I just wondered.
We've never done that before.
Yeah, I served on it.
That's probably why they stopped it.
We'll have that Q&A after this. I have an answer, but we'll have the Q&A after this. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? And the meeting portion is adjourned. And again, we stress that if you wish to stay, you're welcome to. Board members and Jeff and the admin team will stay afterward for a limit of 30 minutes of question and answer. Again, we would ask that you speak using the microphone, name and site number, as this will be part of the recording process. And this and all the meetings that are held at Sandy Pines are on our YouTube channel. So.
Okay, Q&A section. So if you have a question hypothetically about condos, liaisons, if you could please step up to the mic and state your name, site number, and
The whole state of Michigan, they provide them to anybody, no matter what level.
Kelly Johnson, site 7031. And the question is, I had previously served as a liaison between the board and the condo association. And I was wondering if that's no longer available for the condo association, or it was just forgot to fill that position.
great question, Kelly. I'm glad you asked it. So the short answer to that is the condos are not a committee. So this is committee specific. There has been a liaison to support the relationship and communication of rules and things of that nature between the park and the condos. Yes, we could still support that, but it's specifically not a committee. So if the condos have somebody in mind, I believe how this came up was somebody, the condo president, brought the request forward. It was discussed, and the board and Sandy Pines supported it. So we could go through that process again. It's just not a official committee. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Good question.
My name is Kim, 7048. I just have a question. I know like in the park you can't burn leaves, so I'm wondering why the golf course can.
where they burning leaves, two,
Like when you're golfing.
so I can talk to the maintenance crew. Technically, the burning leaves here is a Sandy Pines rule. We can still, the township still allows you to burn leaves. I can ask why they're doing it, but.
You know, before they always had the cleanup day.
Yep.
And then everyone would come and clean up, and we'd haul it all to the dump, but they don't do that anymore.
We did have a cleanup day scheduled for this year, and it was actually canceled because of storms coming through. So, ironically. So, you know, I can talk to Dave again and find out if we're gonna reschedule that, but,
Or if they could just pick a different time to burn leaves. I mean, this is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, blowing right across. It's like, hopefully I can find my ball through the smoke.
okay. So I'm not aware that they are or were burning leaves. I can do a follow-up with Dave and I can ask him. Okay? Thank you.
Jill Grung, site K259. Okay, I don't know about all the pump-out plans, but my particular pump-out plan started on April 15th, and I'm just curious why it would have started on April 15th when the park just opened on April 15th. What was there to pump out? Why couldn't we have just reduced the number of pump-outs and therefore reduced the price?
Yeah. So good question. We've bounced this around a lot. Actually the water was turned on well in advance of April 15, and we have had members in the park. So our challenge has been order the pump out plan or do a single one. We've just put the plan together because our single pump outs weren't activated on the website or the portal at the time. So that's why.
Well, if you say the water's going to be turned on April 15th, and people think the water's going to be turned on April 15th, why would they be here thinking that the water's turned on before April 15th?
Well, I believe the communication has always been April 15 or weather permitting. So if it's been warmer before April 15, we have activity in the park. We get a ton of phone calls, hey, can we turn the water on? And maintenance has gone through the park and turned the water on prior to April 15. So that's kind of the way that's been rolling. But we understand that you're not the first one that's brought up, hey, the pump out plan. We've got that on the list to take a look at, improving the schedule on when they're available.
Okay, so how do I particularly find out exactly when the water's going to turn on? Because that's exactly the day I'm going to come. I mean,
April 15, weather permitting. That's the best I can give you.
We're here the 31st of March. Hell, we just use bucket water and use ours until they pump it the 15th of April. It's not a big deal.
Yep, fair point.
But doesn't,
There's a.
I just wanted to say there are several options for the pump out plan, and think of how many members we have and all of our different needs. And like you say, you wanted that pump out by April 15th, so that was available. And we can all pick different pump outs. Mine doesn't perfectly align with the way we're here either, but I either add one before, add one after. Or it's just not going to suit everybody, but I do know that Craig Van Beek used to work on maintenance. He's not here tonight, but he mentioned that the reason for these different plans have to do with the employees and how many times they're out in the park, and so there's a whole lot that goes into that. I know it might not suit all of us exactly. It's probably not gonna, but we try our best. So just pick what's the best for you, and then add on when you need to.
well, I picked the every other week pump out. So it started, and there wasn't anything to pump out. It doesn't make sense to me when people generally think that the water's going to be turned on a particular day. There can't be that much in there on the
Yeah.
first day. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I totally understand. Thanks for sharing that.
Five and a half minutes in. Any other questions? We can get you back to round 2 of the NFL draft early. Ian likes that in the back, so.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Nielsen, Lot 803, that's Phase 2. I am on the water, and I have a buoy that has drifted in. It's a swim buoy. I don't know if I can take it out and take it to wherever. And also, I have somebody lost their, or disconnected a step, big step, and I can't move it. It's
Okay.
too heavy.
Okay.
And another question is, are they going to start raking the beaches? I'm sorry, it's not beach. Sorry, Jim, it's not the beach. The sand.
Right, so I'll try to do that in the order that you had. So the swim buoy, and even that dock, I would reach out to Park Inspector or Public Safety, and then we can have somebody come down and take a look at that and try and
It's heavy, I can't move.
try and address that. Well, Carolyn, put your waders on and get out. No, we'll have somebody come down and take a look at it.
Okay.
Seasonal, Ben's maintenance, the seasonal team, they're just starting to roll in. They are coming in anywhere from April 15th to mid-May. So you'll start seeing some of that activity along the lake shore that you're talking about. But again, just as a word of caution, we'll talk about it in the footprints. We've got an article out there, but May is Memorial Weekend, boating season, beach, all that other stuff. We cannot touch any of that sand or water, your metal boat stake locator in towards the water.
I'm aware of that.
We can't touch any of that, so a lot of that activity will be outside of that boat stake, but you'll start seeing that ramp up here probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, they do an excellent job raking the sand.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Going once? Twice? All right, NFL draft, here we come. Thank you for attending. Have a blessed evening and weekend. Thanks.
We spend more time worrying about football players.
Let me take your name.
I thought that was your name, CPA.